All right, day 496 of going live. Today, what we're doing is we're going to be going through the BRRRR strategy. And again, thank you so much, everybody. I'm reflecting a little bit. I'm back in Boston, hanging out with my parents, translating for my mom's for back procedure. And I'm in the same apartment I grew up in, same bunk bed I slept in. And just want to take some time to thank you all for being part of this community, for caring about affordable housing. Because without people like you, I would have literally never had this home that I'm sitting in right now. So I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel, the podcast, the community. Let's stay consistent. Let's keep at it. Today's day 496. So today, if you've been following what we've been doing, we've been looking at properties that have been coming onto the Birmingham market, and I'll show you my filters right now. I'm looking at properties that are 4-bedroom plus, single family homes, and have been on Redfin for less than 3 days. And these properties are 4-bedroom plus because I'm looking for BRRRR opportunities. And that allows me to turn 3 bedrooms into 4 bedrooms and try to pull back out as much capital that we invested. So if you understand what a BRRRR strategy stands for, right? It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. What makes this strategy so scalable is, if I were to use an example, you would look at, let's say you spend $20,000 buying a property, and you spend $50,000 after you buy that property for $20,000 cash. So you're all in now $70,000, 20 for acquisitions, $50,000 for renovation. So you're all in at 70 grand. If you're able to make that property worth $100,000, so now you spent 70 grand and now you have 100 grand in the property, you created $30,000 of equity. What that allows you to do is now you can go get a debt service coverage ratio loan, a DSCR loan, and that allows you to take back out in the form of loan proceeds 70% of the home's value. So you can get back out $70,000 in the form of loan proceeds, assuming your home is worth 100 grand, and you get back out all the capital that you invested, and now you can rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And that's the magic of the BRRRR strategy, because that's way more scalable because you get to use the same pile of cash over and over again. Now, the other option you want to think about is, well, what is that in comparison to? Well, typically folks might save up 20% or 25% down from their full-time jobs. And after you buy that first property, they hope that it cash flows or they hope that it appreciates, and you save up for another 20, 25% down all over again. And that's why it's a lot slower. I'm not saying you can't be successful, right? Don't get me wrong. A lot of people are successful doing that strategy, right? Just very slowly building their wealth. But that's why people like the BRRRR strategy, because you get to use the same capital over and over again, and it adds velocity to your strategy. So what is that strategy heavily dependent on? It's heavily dependent on you getting the after repair value correctly. So that's why we have tracked properties that were sold in the last 12 months, right? We're getting and gathering all the most critical data attributes, which means like, hey, what's the bed bath count? What's the square footage? What's the year built? What was it sold at? So that lets you calculate the price per square foot it closed at, when it was sold, the lot size, and some general conditions or notes about your property. Some areas it might be, hey, does your property have a pool, right? If everybody in Phoenix has a pool, you might be severely lacking in a pool. And here, we're just noting down where there's a garage, where there's a basement, whether you're in HOA. We track what division or subdivision or neighborhood your property is in, and we just note down some general comments about the property, because this allows me to quickly go back when I see a prospective opportunity that I want to BRRRR, to pull it up and see whether or not I can potentially achieve the after repair value that I'm looking for in order for me to have a perfect BRRRR, quote unquote, so that I can pull back out on my capital. Now, why are we tracking properties that are coming on the market now? Because if you understand how the market works, your 30-year mortgage interest rates are heavily affected by two factors. One is the interest rate of the 10-year yield, and the second part is the spread between the 10-year yield and your 30-year mortgage interest rates. That spread between a 10-year yield and the 30-year mortgage interest rates has typically been around 1.5 to 2%, but it's gone as high as 3% in the last couple of years. So, with that said, what you're looking to do is you're trying to track what has been happening to the 10-year over the last 12 months. You can see right now we peaked at 4.8 a year ago, went to a low of 3.6-ish, went and touched a 12-month high just not that long ago, just a month ago, less than that, to 4.8. So if you're refinancing today, you might be looking at properties that were sold in September and October when interest rates were the lowest. So when interest rates are low, your payments are lower, so that drives your affordability up, and that allows your purchase prices to close at higher prices. If you were to buy a property today, you might be refinancing 3 to 6 months from now. Based on comps that are sold today, when interest rates are nearly at the 12-month high, which means that when interest rates are higher, your monthly payment is higher, that drives down your affordability, and it drives down your purchase prices. Hopefully that relationship makes sense. And that's why we're closely tracking all these factors, because without tracking these factors, you never know what is your true risk, right? Because if you're buying today, you have to understand you probably need a little bit more room because of how high the 10-year yield is now in comparison to September and October. You don't want to overestimate your ARV because you might end up leaving more capital than you would like in that deal, and that might affect your ability to pull back out as much capital as possible, or if you have a private lender, that affects how much capital you can pull back out there too. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful, everybody. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to write down, look at this property. This property just came on the market. It's a 4x2 by 2,000 square feet. So 2,000 square feet, that's pretty good square footage. Generally, I don't try to buy any properties bigger than that, and it's a 4.2, so I like 2 bathroom properties. And if I were to renovate a property, I mean, this would be similar to the type of finishes that I would be looking for. There's no carpeting here. There's no paint work needed. Not super modern. One modern bathroom, one not modern bathroom. Okay, great. So let me write this down. Let me get down all these details. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take down the link. I'm gonna take down the address, and I'm gonna write down all these details so that I can have it in place for my quick reference next time when I come and evaluate a property to decide whether or not property is a good comp, a good comparable sold property when I'm looking at another property in here. So very probably do 2,000 times. 2 days in Redfin, built in 1973. 1973. This property is listed for 239. This is on 0.33 acres. So on a price per square foot perspective, equals that divided by 2026, 118 per square foot. Listed 2,425. Is there a garage in this property? No garage, no basement. No garage, no basement. Let's see what community it is in. So I just like to look at this property and I just zoom out on Google Maps. And this property is closest to Grayson Valley. Okay. Grayson Valley. Okay. Above average kitchen with green cabinets, one modern bathroom, one above average bathroom. No flooring or paint work needed. So now I get a general condition, sense of the condition of the property. So that allows me to go back and think about, hey, if I'm renovating a property and I see that this property is sold for 118, what did this property look like? What does my renovated property need to look like for me to achieve $118 per square foot? Because that drives how much I'd be willing to pay for a property. Okay. So now that's all I need to set aside for my comps. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze this deal, just assuming I'm buying this property on the market. So we can practice and help you understand how do you decide whether or not something is a deal that meets your criteria, right? Right. A deal for me might not be a deal for you. So again, this is not investment advice. We're not soliciting any investments on this call. We're just showing you how to tactically put in some inputs so that you can be consistent and remain objective without getting too emotionally involved in your deal. All right, so row 6 in rehab calculator. I got $1,500 for the roof. just in case any patchwork needed and anything that's wrong with the roof that I can't see from the photos, because they only show you interior photos, right? I got $5 for some landscaping to keep it tidy. I don't need to do any flooring work or painting work, so I'm good with that. I would probably like to just replace the toilets with higher pressure flush toilets here in row two. I typically do that so that I prevent those clogged toilet calls. If you ever get a clogged toilet call, it probably cost you $100 to send a plumber out there. Probably cost you $200 to replace the toilet. And at that point, you drain all your time, all your energy. You probably never want to be a real estate investor again. So I just like to kind of get it all done up front so that I don't ever have to face that issue and drain my time and energy with dealing with clogged toilet calls. Then I got $90 set aside for adding a cage to my HVAC system so that it does not get stolen, which has happened to me before. So that gives me total rehab about $45.60. Great. Now, for my rent, I'm going to go to affordablehousing.com. I'm going to go to the owner section, the market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in the bedroom count, and you see right here that on average, the rent for 25 units that 4 bedroom plus within a 2 mile radius is 1623. So I'm at to 1550, just to be a little bit more conservative here. I don't see $1,600 for rent that often. So at 1550, what are my other details? Let's get my taxes for my payment calculator right here on Redfin. So that's $81. Put in 81. Obviously, you should double check with your county assessor records to verify what your tax rate is before you close. Then for insurance, I got 185. It's right here. So I'm going to multiply that by 1.2 because I'm assuming this 185 number is for a property that is a primary residence property. And if I'm using a property as an investment property, an insurance company is going to view that as a riskier asset. So they're going to charge you more. And that's why I multiply by 1.2 to add a 20% premium to that, just so I can be a little bit more conservative. Definitely get a quote before you close. Now, the other expenses that I have here is the 10% for my maintenance, my war chest. And this is money that you got to set aside every single month because otherwise you would be turning a blind eye to expenses that you know are coming down the road. Don't ever believe anybody that says, "Hey, there's no maintenance. There's no maintenance. It's a turnkey property. Everything's brand new." It's never the case because you know at some point, especially if you're a buy and hold investor, that 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you're going to have to replace a roof. Same thing for your HVAC system 10, 15 years. Same thing for your water heater in 10, 15 years. You're going to have to replace it. So if you don't set aside money right now, you'll be underestimating your expenses and you'll be overestimating your profitability. Don't be that person. All right. Then I got 10% for my property management expenses and I got 5% for my vacancy. So with a 25% down in F19, I can calculate that my down payment is going to equals to B4 times my down payment percentage of 25%. So I'll be putting down 52 grand. Got 2% for closing costs. So my financing amount is going to be equals to B4, which is my asking price, minus my down payment amount in E19. So I'll be financing 156.75K. Using a 7.5% interest rate right now, which is roughly an estimate. If you rent this property out for $1,550, you would cash flow negative. So you'd be losing $237 a month after all these expenses. That's a negative 4.7% return. Assuming you bought this property for $239 with a $4,600 rehab, 25% down, 7.5% interest rate. Now, let's say you are targeting a 10% return. What does that do for you? If you have a 10% target return, what do you have to reduce your purchase price by? So let's go at 120 grand, 110 grand. Now you can see I had to lower the asking price to 110 grand just to achieve a 9.9% cash and cash return. Now, does that mean you're gonna be able to get this property for 110 grand? Probably not, to be honest with you. But this allows you to figure out objectively what is your buy box? What is your criteria? If you see another property that's 4 bedroom plus is 110 grand with only $4,600 rehab, you're just like, oh, that's a deal. But that typically is not the case. All right. I'm just showing you again. I'm not saying 10% is the magic number. It's not investment advice. Some folks might say, I'm okay with breaks even because as long as I am buying a property in Southern California and it cash flow negative or neutral, but I can make 5% appreciation on that property every single year, that's $50,000. They don't care about 200 $300 of cash flow a month. So that's their wealth builder. And everybody has their own reason, their own rationale for how they build out their portfolio and how they diversify their portfolio. You have to understand why that is the case for you. Okay. So at 9.9%, that works. But what if, right? We just talked about interest rate. What if your interest rates drop from 7.5 to 6%? See what happened to the cash and cash return? Just jump. So if interest get more favorable, you might say, hey, I'd be willing to pay $120, 123. You might be willing to pay 123 again because that's 9.7%. So that you're able to, or you're willing to pay $13,000 more just because interest rates drop 1.5 points to 6%, because now you're able to cash flow $306 a month, assuming everything else stays constant, and you rent this property out for $1,550. All right. Hopefully this was helpful, everybody. My goal is for you to learn how to input these numbers yourself, just to determine your own criteria. Now, my hope is that you copy my homework today, right? Analyze the same deal and analyze today using the same spreadsheet. I didn't make the spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks, modified, I tweaked it so that I can analyze deals as fast as possible so that I can avoid burnout. Because what's burnout? It's when you do a lot of work for no return on your time and your energy. So the faster you get at this, the more confidence you have that you know what you're doing. Because at some point, someone's going to ask you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? Well, you would have started your own YouTube channel at that point in time from copying my homework. And you can say, hey, I think this is a deal because I've been looking at properties for the past 496 days. Might that give you some comments that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right. I hope you all have an amazing Thursday. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today. And I'm just so grateful for all you supporting the community, for being part of the community, for listening to the live, supporting the channels. Thank you so much for sharing this with your family, with your friends. I know sometimes the first step is really hard to take. And that's why I do these lives. I stay consistent. We're almost at day 500. It's crazy when I look back at it. But 500 days in a row, all it takes is just 18 minutes a day. 18 minutes a day, doing anything consistently, and you would probably be better at whatever you want to master than 95% of the country. Thank you so much. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 497. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow.